We gotta keep it going. Okay, keep it going.
Hello and welcome back to another international episode of the Life After SAE podcast. I'm really glad we can have another international guest. But first of all, I want to welcome my co-host, Glen. Hi, Glen, how are you doing?
Hi, Curdy. Thank you so much. I'm doing well. Appreciate it. And I would like to say hello. Thank you very much for joining us tonight, Julia Borelli. How are you doing
guys.
today?
Hey, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So first of all, for everyone, please just introduce yourself with our three main questions we always have. And they go like, who are you? What do you do? And why do you do it?
Ooh. Well, my name is Julia Borelli. I'm a mixing and mastering engineer. And why do I do it? Because I love music. I've always been obsessed with music, and I feel very lucky to be able to do this every day. And I do this so I can enjoy music and not worry that the mix is bad. So, like going to a club and having a bad mix always ruins my experience. So that's why I do it.
Nice. Even though the club mixes are in mono.
Well, a good mix can translate, right? So
Yes, exactly. A little bit. We're also glad because this podcast also includes every SAE alumni. So we also do VFX people and film people. But today we can nerd out a little bit more since you're an audio engineer.
Nice.
You had a quite interesting start. So I know you. I know your name because I do electronic music and I love electronic music.
Yeah.
And I visited your website and I was like, oh my God, that's all the music I listen to. You mixed and mastered so much of it. And I was a little bit starstruck. But then we did some more research. You're from Brazil.
Yeah.
And you started not in audio engineering, you started with electric engineering. Is that true?
Yeah. So when I finished school, in Brazil, like there was always pressure from my family to do a real career, let's say.
Yes, I get it.
And but never really a pressure. But throughout my whole life, I always wanted to do something with music. Like I was obsessed with music. I would be like I was study a lot for school, but then any free time that I would have, I would play music because I played multiple instruments. And then my parents were always trying to convince me not to do it. So when I finished school, I had to choose something of a career. And I chose electrical engineering. And I did a year of that in university. But during that time, every project that I could choose what I would do something related to music. So like I would build an automatic tuner or whatever. Like it was never something that would actually bring me a lot of money as an engineer in the future, as an electrical engineer. It was always like passion projects. But then on the side, I started working in a studio. And then I had to just tell my parents that electrical engineering wasn't going to happen. But I always loved, like I still love all the like nerdy side of like electrical engineering. And I do a lot of projects, but music has always been, my favorite.
The main driver.
Yes.
All right. So we just, as Kurt mentioned earlier, we read about you to prepare for this interview. And I read that at the age of 18, you already started to become an assistant engineer in a studio in Rio de Janeiro. Can you talk about it? How did you get there and what did you do?
So the moment I finished school, I had 6 months off, and a lot of my friends were traveling and taking the time off. And I decided to go to London to do a 6-month diploma to learn about music production.
Point blank, right?
Point blank, yeah.
Yes, I know it. Of course.
And then when I went back to Brazil to actually start this University of Electrical Engineering, my band won. I was in a band, and we won a contest, and we got some time in the studio. And the owner of the studio was yeah, I became like, I arrived early for the session because of course I wanted to nerd about the studio and stuff.
Sure.
and then I helped him set up everything, and he was like he was curious about why did I know that stuff about studio, and then we became friends, and he had a friend that is one of the biggest mastering engineers in Brazil, and that I was very lucky to have as a mentor, and he was looking for an assistant. So then one day I remember I think I was going to the dentist, and then this friend calls me and he's like, at this point I was not planning to have a career in audio. I was still,
oh, wow.
Yeah. And then this friend calls me and he's like, so I have a friend that is a mastering engineer that is looking for an assistant. Would you like to meet him?
God damn it.
Me on my way to the dentist or something random like that. And I'm like,
Wow.
Sure, when? Tomorrow. Okay, cool. And then, yeah, that's when my parents had no chance of me going in a different career.
Oh, that is random. But it's always those daily moments where people call you, where opportunities rise.
It 100% is. Like, being good at what you do is very important, but you do need, it's not luck. I think there is something like luck for these things to happen. But I believe that the harder you work, the more luck you have, you know? So it is like the opportunity came, and I was like he said the next day I was there, you know, and you make it work.
I totally agree. I mean, if you wouldn't have got the call, or if you just wouldn't answered the call and wouldn't have got the job, you would probably be a successful electronic engineer. But like this, but you wouldn't have got.
I probably would be a frustrated electrical engineer.
But let's say it like this: you were good enough that the mastering engineer said, "Okay, she's probably a good assistant and she wants to learn." So you were skillful, so you got lucky.
And I even see that for me now. Like I've had multiple assistants during this time, and the most important thing is to have the drive. Like they can be the most skilled possible, but if they're not hungry for knowledge and hungry for the job, it's never. It is very important, and yeah.
So I want to know the mastering engineer. He called you. You just said you arrived the next day. How did everything start? What was your approach heading to a studio?
Oh, my first day was very scary.
I bet.
But it was also, I think, I've done also after that, I worked in different studios. And I think the first day in the studio was the day that I learned the most important lesson that I use till this day and every day of my life, which I remember I arrived in the studio and I saw like he didn't have like the normal compressors that, you know, he didn't have an LA2A or 1176. He had like the most incredible mastering chain ever, and still has. And I remember, and I didn't know that gear, you know, and I remember going there and being like, ooh, wow, what are all these buttons? Like trying to understand what is what, trying to write down on my phone so I could research later. And then the first day I was just sitting behind him, watching him work. And after he finished mastering, he told me, okay, now you sit down and you're going to listen to it and you're going to tell me what I did. And I was like, fuck. Can I say fuck?
You can say anything you want. No worries.
Okay.
No problem.
Okay. Like, I have no idea what he just did. I'm going to lose the job that I was so excited that I just got. Cool.
Oh, no.
And then I just answered what I could, because I couldn't say what buttons he pressed or whatever,
Sure.
but I just listened and said, oh, I hear that the shakers are a bit more open, the vocals are a bit more upfront. And in the end, that's what matters. It's not about any of these buttons that, you know, like no one that's listening to the music is going to be like, oh, I love that 2K. You know, it's about feeling. And what I could tell him was what I was feeling. And he liked the answer. So I continued having that job. So.
It's amazing. That's really amazing. I mean, you ended up actually, I mean, that's at least what I found in my research. Maybe it's wrong. Assisting on Latin Grammy Award winning productions. So it's, you're actually
Latin and also full Grammy, like Grammy and Latin Grammy.
Oh, see, I was wrong. Even full Grammy. It's really, really impressive that you had the chance so fresh that you get to work on. Obviously, you were good to work on such big productions.
Yeah, it was. I was very lucky. His name is André, and he was a great mentor. And I got to work. Also, I think that's also very important. Like when starting out, being able to have worked on such cool like albums was also very exciting, and probably made it even easier to decide to go for this career.
Just jump right into it. But it sounds
Yeah.
like a scary first day.
Yeah, and even seeing like he's a complete workaholic. I have a problem with being a workaholic, but I think I learned a lot from him. Like I remember I would leave the studio at 3 a.m. and then the next day I would come to the studio at 10, and he would be like, "Oh, I did 3 more versions," and I'm like, "When? Did you sleep?"
Wow.
How
That's
do you
crazy.
survive?
Yeah, yeah. But that's how you get these these crazy amazing projects also come when you are ready to, like a lot of the artists that I work with now, it started by like Richie Houghton and also Afterlife. It was they needed someone. The person that was mastering before wasn't available. They needed someone to do it as soon as possible, and I was there. And then they
Yeah.
liked the sound, and they came back, and
Nice.
I am
Lovely.
where I am in my career now because of not sleeping.
Yes. Let's talk about where you are right now geographically. I think you are in Berlin right now in your studio.
I'm in Berlin. Yeah.
You were in Rio de Janeiro. You worked in a big mastering studio. What made you go to Berlin, and why specifically Berlin?
SAE actually made me move to Berlin
Alright.
because I wanted to study audio, like get a proper degree. Because in Brazil, if you go to jail, not anymore, but back then, if you go to jail, if you have a bachelor's degree, you go to a better cell. So just to make sure, you never know. No, but I wanted to get a proper bachelor's degree, and
Right.
in Brazil, we didn't have a lot of options. I wanted to go somewhere Europe.
Yeah.
I knew about SAE because when I was in Point Blank, a lot of my friends were actually from SAE there.
Oh, okay.
And but I didn't want to go to London
Why?
because it was very expensive, and
Yeah,
I
London.
had already been there, and I wanted somewhere different. And Berlin was the other English-speaking kind of city
All right.
that I could go to.
So you went to SAE Berlin. You also worked there, I think, for some
So
time.
I did the bachelor's, and then when I finished the diploma, I got hired as a department assistant, and I worked there for 2 years.
Me too, in Bochum, actually.
Oh, cool.
In Bochum. So, how was your experience going to SAE and studying and officially learning the craft, where you already worked in Rio in mastering studios?
Yeah.
How did that feel like for you?
What I love about like having had that opportunity was you get to learn in a very, when in the studio, when I was in the mastering studio, I learned how to do things, but there was a lot of the background information on things that I was still missing because the diploma that I did in Point Blank before was more also hands-on. And the studio is more hands-on, but there's a lot of like basic knowledge that you end up missing.
Of course.
And like with SAE, I got to learn every step, and then understand all the in practice things that I had learned before in the studio. And then it just makes like life easier. I remember when I finished SAE that I was talking to someone that worked there, and it's like for most people that do what I do now, they learned by working in the studio, but then it takes you 20 years to get the basic knowledge, or like 10
Right.
years. And by doing it, like having like a program like this, you end up, it's just speeding up the process, which
Right. You just
is
get
very-
the most important information, I guess, instead of watching thousands of hours of YouTube tutorials or whatever.
yeah. Or even from before YouTube tutorials, like I have a lot of
Right.
friends that
Yeah.
had to learn just by being in the studio and watching people do it.
Yeah.
Right.
It's
Um,
much easier having someone that shows you and that has a structure on the teaching.
True.
Yeah.
One more question regarding studying at the SAE. When I went to the SAE, I also wanted to really get into the music scene, But then also I learned what else there is to do, what different jobs you can do in audio, because it has so many different facets. How about you? Because you were already working in the music industry.
So much.
Yeah.
Like when I was working in the studio, I never thought sound for movies or all
Right.
these things. Like there's so much learning that I also loved learning. And I even, when I moved to Germany and I had to basically restart my career here and get clients and all these things. And I also did sound for movies and whatever I could find.
Okay.
So,
interesting.
It opens a lot of possibility.
Talking about the clients, you did SAE, you worked in a big studio, as you told before, and you worked, I don't know if you worked that much on electronic music before. And now you go to Berlin, which is like the centrum in this world for electronic music.
Yeah.
But how did you get into electronic music so deep?
I don't know.
You don't know?
It was, I'm in, I think being in a city that has so much electronic music ends up that I was in the right place in the right time. So I liked electronic music before, but I wasn't working doing that.
Yes, that's what I mean. It's so interesting that you go so full dive in.
It was basically like the opportunities came, as I said, and I was the only one that was willing. Like with Richie Houghton, he called me. I got a message. Actually, that's a funny story. I was giving a lesson at a mixing and mastering at another school.
Yeah,
and it was an evening class, so it was probably like 9 p.m. And then as I'm giving the lesson, I see my phone like getting messages like Richie Houghton, Prada, Master tonight.
Oh, no.
And I'm like, I think it's time for a smoke break, guys. And then I call them and they're like, oh, Richie needs a master. Can you do it? And I said, yes. Richie said it was going to take 2 hours. I stayed till 9 a.m. the next day in the studio.
God damn.
With him. And then I started, he really liked the sound. So I continued doing his master. So that's how things happen. And it was the same with Afterlife. It was also, it was over the weekend. There was one of the VAs, they needed 3 more songs to be mastered. And I was there. So the one from Richie came from, I'm in Riverside Studios, and Richie was also here, but in a external studio part of it.
Yeah.
So he knew the people here and he asked, they recommended me, and that's how it happened. And
Nice.
then with that, like working with Richie, working with Afterlife, then I started getting more and more, like people like the sound and they came for more. So that's basically how, and now I do a lot of electronic music every day of my life. So it's really just a word of mouth or people hearing, liking the sound, and like working on a record that people like is how it starts.
Right. That sounds like a pretty organic process to me. You just mentioned word of mouth, because I know there's a lot of engineers that go to academies who tell you or who teach you all the business knowledge you can have and how to send out Google ads and all of that. And I see this in my Instagram feed all the time. And I hate to see this. There's another mixing and mastering engineer, and they're just ads online, but they probably never go out and meet people or talk to people. And you are just the proof that the organic situation is way more important. Right?
Networking is like I think 50% of the job.
Yes,
like,
definitely. That's a good point.
Because you can be the best mixing engineer in the world if you do not leave your, like now at least there's the internet, so it's easier to reach people. But if you do not meet people, no one will ever hear the amazing mixes. The same for making music, but you need to meet people and like a lot of actually the beginning of my career, my clients were friends that needed a mix, and then I did it, and that's how it grew,
Yes.
Then someone else plays it, and then he likes it and says, oh, who did the mixing? And so on and so forth. But do you actively participate in networking? So you say like, okay, Saturday I go to this club and I know Penpot is playing there. I will talk to the guys. or something like this? Do you actively do it? Just organic?
Now I'm trying to do a little bit less because it can be very exhausting, especially
Yes.
in Berlin. I remember there was a summer, maybe 3 years ago, that I said, I'm only going out if it's someone that I work with that is playing. Because usually if it's like one person that I'm working with that is playing, they have other people in the lineup that are similar, that could be also possible clients.
Yes, that's what I mean.
And also a lot of the clients that I work with, a lot of them I never met in person, or I rarely see them because it's only I'm here alone. Sometimes they come to the studio, but it's very rare. So I try to go and see them play when they play. And I remember 3 years ago in the summer, I tried to do that. And I said, I'm only going to go out if it's someone that I work with. I went out every weekend on that summer. And then after that, I said, no, enough.
You got to set borders, right?
Yeah, because it's really hard. Like if you go out on the also these are parties that go till like
yeah, of course,
11 a.m. and like I have to be in the studio. I try to do normal work hours in the studio to have some kind of a health like balance, work-life balance. And it's very hard to go like one night, be until 11 a.m. and then have to be in the studio. Yeah.
Another big step in your career, I just realized the name, was Nadoki. What is Nadoki? What did you do? How did you found it?
Actually, Nadoki was like when I finished SAE, I had 3 friends from SAE, and we all built like open our studio. That's how we started it. So yeah, basically it was the 4 of us. In the end, I was the one engineering and they were partners. That's it. And yeah, but that actually the studio came from a project from SAE. It was a group project that we had. I don't remember which assignment. But yeah, that we did a studio together, and then we ended up actually taking it from like becoming actually a business.
That's really cool. That's really lovely to work with other people you just studied with. But was it from the beginning? Was it located at Riverside Studios?
No, no. We first were. I think the first room was in Matson, which is very far and very noisy, but very cheap. So that's how it started. Then we moved to a basement of somewhere here in Kreuzberg. That we rented out and built a studio.
What a Berlin techno thing to do, to be in a basement in Kreuzberg.
That was an experience. Yeah.
Yes.
But that's how it started.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. And then at some point we moved here in a much smaller room. This is a bigger one.
Yeah.
Right. But it works. Hey, it works.
Yeah.
You can invite clients over, you can show them your mixes and masters. So it works. That's cool. We talked about community and networking just a minute ago. And I also found out that you created or started your own Patreon page where you share your knowledge, where you share mixing tips, I guess. Do you want to talk about it? How did that came along?
Yeah, actually, basically that started because I had a lot of people reaching out in my DMs on Instagram asking about how I mixed this or how I did that. And I was like, maybe I just find a way to, because I don't have a lot of free time to do this. But if I do maybe an hour, like I do a call with everyone, show how I mix this, I record it and I can post it and create kind of an archive that people can see how I mix this song or that song, is whenever I can get the permission also from the artist and the label to show. And yeah, and I love seeing, my favorite thing is seeing other people nerding and excited about something that I am excited about, like mixing. Bunch of weirdo nerds talking about this. It's very fun. So I have like a Discord with more than 300 people. Yeah. And then once a month I do a stream with everyone and show them like how I mix the songs or depends. Each month I do something different.
So you show your sessions, your workflow, and then people can also ask, what about those 2.5K? Which
Yeah,
EQ did
exactly.
you? Nice.
And then I can nerd about it.
That's the place.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. It's very fun.
I have a music question, another one. Just to do some name dropping, some more. You did a lot of mastering for Anima, for Afterlife Records.
Mm-hmm.
If you let's just say if you see Anima play the Las Vegas Sphere, and you see the show and you listen to your song, how does that feel? If you see like those big AAA headline techno artists be like, that's my master.
It's very weird. Especially for me, it was funny because I started working with them during Corona. So there wasn't anything of these big things happening. I was alone in the studio for infinite hours because it was right at the beginning of Anima and we were like working on a lot of stuff. And I would like really be in the studio for an unhealthy amount of hours, which I try to avoid now, and not seeing anyone, like alone in a cave.
There wasn't much to do, to be honest. It was a comedy.
Exactly. And then, which was good and bad, because then I had no distractions. Like, you know, there weren't friends. Oh, let's go out. No,
not
really, that's the only thing I do with my life. And I remember the first ADE, like Amsterdam Dance Event, that I was supposed to be there, but I was sick, so I couldn't go. And I remember watching, like, me at home, like super sick, watching on my laptop, seeing like the crazy Afterlife event and the amount of people dancing to the music that I was in my cave alone, you know. I remember that was a very shocking, like, oh, wow. So all these hours and like the
it
music
all went there.
My obsession with the kick and the low end, now people are actually dancing to it. It was very cool. And then 2 days later, I was better. And then I went to Amsterdam. And then I saw...
Fair.
Yeah. Like I went to the loft and saw people dancing.
You sometimes listen to it in a club or in a festival situation and you're like, I could have done that better.
Yeah. It's always funny also when I remember, I think it was Pride or one of the events here, like maybe Rave the Planet, that they were playing some songs that I did, and I never recognized directly. I'm always like, I think I've heard this before. But together with it, there's a bit of that anxiety of like focusing, like obsessing about something. And then after a while, I'm like, wait, I mixed this. It's always funny. But I do very often go to clubs and suffer because the kick is wrong of something, or when the sub is not properly tuned with the room. Is always
right.
Annoying
stuff.
My friends call me the kick police.
The kick police. Nice.
Sometimes also when you're in a club and the system is not quite right, so you have like wave problems, and some friend just talks to you and you're like, let's just stand half a meter over there, then we can talk, because then my ears won't hurt.
Exactly.
They don't get it. They don't understand.
I am that person.
Me too.
The other day I went to a row cycle, like one of these bike classes with a friend, and they had the speakers were so loud and horrible that I left the room. I was like, I'm not doing this.
God damn it.
The audio people.
Yeah.
I get it.
Nerds. Again, I have one more question regarding networking, bringing together people, because I find this is a very important topic. You're also a member of the Female Producer Collective, I found out, who are advocating for supporting upcoming talent, I guess. That's what I found. Can you speak about it to make it a bit more clear?
So the Female Producer Collective is a German collective of, they have a lot of like classes and program, like a very cool program for females. And I'm a mentor there. So with that, like I've done some master classes for them, but also I do one-to-one calls. Yeah, with the members that they select. Basically, they divide it in seasons, and each season they select specific amount. I don't know how many women that then we mentor them and help with whatever they need. So it covers the audio side, but also business. It's a pretty cool program.
Wow, interesting.
Really nice. Really nice. I think also it's a good thing to do, because for us as podcasters, we always try to get more women, but it's hard for us, as you can imagine, because we're doing the nerdy-turdy stuff.
Yeah, but I also I totally see the struggle. I also, like, now with the assistants, I decided that I'm only gonna have female assistants, and it's also much harder to find. Now I found one that is pretty cool.
Nice. That's
cool. Yeah.
Wish her
but
all the
it's
best.
always a tricky, but it is improving. Like it's like having programs like the Female Producer Collective and She Said So and all these. It is we have more and more. I see also even I'm still in touch with the people in SAE, and I see that with time it's getting better. When I went to SAE, I think there were only 4 women in my whole class.
I know.
Out of 100 and whatever people.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yes. I just remember.
I actually, going back to the Patreon thing, I actually open now a tier on my Patreon that is only for Flinta. So women, and Flinta. And to that is as free as I can make, because Patreon doesn't let you do it as 0. So I think it's like €3 or something, because to try to give access to the information, because I feel like it's not that women. Well, there are many reasons why there is this inequality, but I think getting access to information is a big the thing that can help. So
you're doing the right thing. That's really nice to hear. I'm hoping for more female engineers soon.
Hopefully more people get to hear this and join the Flinta tier.
Yes. We can put it in the show notes.
Definitely. I want to nerd out one more time with you guys. And it's a question we always ask engineers. I think we started talking about this in the podcast last year ago. Atmos. It's a big topic. I found out that you are you're just showing
okay. Yes, I see it.
that you have more and more speakers in your room. What do you think about it? Do you have to deliver it? How many percentage of your jobs is Atmos? What is stereo? Please share what you know.
It's still not. It's growing, I would say. Like throughout maybe the last year.
It's always growing, isn't it?
Yeah. It is. I mean, I have the majority that I do is for sure stereo. Only I see now only the artists that are big enough that, because if you do Atmos, Apple pays more. So if you have enough of an audience, it pays back. Investing in Atmos, or also for playlisting, a lot of people are choosing to do Atmos as well, because Apple is pushing for their playlists. And it is growing. It's slowly in the electronic scene. I think it's a bit slower, because so many are focused on the club or actually DJing with the track, which then it's only in stereo. So
of course, the sheer use case is just different for playing it on CDJs in a stereo setup.
Exactly, but the more mainstream they're getting, the more are doing Atmos. So it is growing as well, and I do think it's technology now allows us to experience it, and it is a great experience. Like the first time that I listened actually to my Atmos room, I cried.
Yeah, I get it.
It is an amazing experience, and now it's not that you need this crazy setup to be able to consume it. You can do it with headphones, and it's getting better and better.
Definitely. Do you remember the first track you listened on your big Atmos rig? Do you remember?
Rocket Man.
Oh, nice.
The moment that the chorus comes is like,
it's beautiful.
So beautiful.
Wow. Nice.
Yeah.
It's also the song to listen to be honest.
It is.
What else?
It is the best Atmos mix out there.
Yes. One more question. Let's go back to the topic Grammys. you're a Recording Academy member. How do you become a Recording Academy member? How does that even work?
You need 2 people that are members or part of the academy to recommend you, and then you can apply to become one. And then now I get to vote for the Grammys. I can also go to the Grammys. Yeah, it is. It's pretty cool seeing. Like something, because also the voting part, you do it at home online, but then it's very fun going to the event and actually being like, yes, the person that I voted for got it. This year I decided not to go because it was, so my boyfriend's birthday is always on the same week
on the
as the
Grammys.
Grammys. And every year I miss his birthday. So this year I decided to be a good girlfriend because it was the day before the birthday. So there was no way to come back.
I get it. Yeah.
So
This year, talking about Atmos, Hans Martin Buff got a Grammy. He's also
I saw it.
SAE alumni. So
yeah, very cool. I voted for him.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Good job.
Yeah, it is. The mixes, the Atmos mixes he did are really great.
We're slowly moving towards the end of this episode, but of course, I also want to talk about your music project. Is it? It's called Borelli. It's like your last name. Why did you start it? What did you do it? You just had to make music yourself?
That actually started during Corona, when like the first month and a half I went back home to escape because we didn't know if the world was going to end. My sister was actually like, oh, how does like this whole making music with a computer work? And then I started showing her, and we started like just for fun, like making music together. And that's how the project started. And then I came back to Berlin, and she actually moved to London. And then we got signed to a label, and we're doing that. But the label and us, we had a bit of different directions in mind. So I stopped. And then now I try to sometimes do, I released a track maybe a year ago. Again, that was in the direction that we actually enjoy. But it's always hard to find time to work on music.
Yes. How hard is it for you to mix and master your own music?
That is the hardest.
I believe.
Because it's like you already heard it so many times that by the time that you're mixing it I need always more time. Basically, that's the thing. And yeah, so, but I think the hardest part for me with making music is like whenever I plan a day of the week, okay, no, this Thursday I'm going to work on my music. Then there's always a big project that comes along and I, I don't have time, but I could just cancel my own session and do it. And so I've been like producing for other people under my artist name. I just produced the Bino Rain EP, doing things like that. My project is a bit paused for the time being, because actually I think what I love the most is actually the studio. Like I don't want to go on tour and do that DJ life. I want to be in the studio. So
I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's not actually not the last question. It's the one before the last question, because I just found it interesting. Just a small detail in your career that you did in your bachelor's degree. You did a Bachelor of Science. Most SAE people do arts. And I know the people, at least in my course, who did a science bachelor were the absolute worst nerds I've ever met. So tell me, what was your topic so that you did a science BA of science?
I basically, I 3D printed the membrane of a speaker in polypropylene and in graphene. I basically wanted to check I love graphene. I've always loved graphene since, it's weird, since I'm a kid, since they found it. Whenever there was something on the news about graphene, my mom would cut the newspaper and put it on my desk for me to read it because I was obsessed with it. And then on my thesis, I wanted to search about the like the membrane, if a membrane would be of graphene, because it's like super strong, it's lightweight and pretty resistant. So it's technically the perfect material for a membrane of a speaker. And I wanted to compare that, but to be able to compare it, and it's really hard to actually shape it, right? So I could 3D print it. So then I compared basically the normal way of producing membranes, and then compared to 3D printing, and then 3D printing the same material with the graphene. And I compared the frequency response and the THD, and yeah.
That's a real deep
and it was
project.
a big headache, because
I believe
3D printing graphene is not as easy as I thought it would be. So it was a lot of hours in front of a 3D printer trying the different settings. Yeah,
And
but
that's
it was fun.
Bachelor of Science.
Yeah, so
ladies and gentlemen.
So I'm a scientist.
Nice, cool. All right. Do you have any more tips or clues for people who are just starting out? We have a lot of listeners who are just finishing their studies, their Bachelor of Science or Bachelor of Arts. What do they have to bring to the table to kind of make it in the audio industry?
Ooh. I think one thing that is very important is, well, as we said, like to be ready when the opportunity comes, but also to put yourself out there and like make those opportunities come, and work really hard, because it's not easy. As I said, I had to, not sleep many nights to get these opportunities. So, but it is worth it.
I believe. I mean, how many people hate their jobs? And I think as three, we come to the studio every day and we're like, nice, that's my job.
Yeah. I mean, when I'm on vacation, I'm actually like, I was just on vacation a couple of weeks ago, and I was excited to go back to work. I was like, I want to go back to
Monday.
Yeah, exactly. It's the best feeling in the world.
That's cool. Yeah, I feel so too. Especially in the beginning, for everyone who's starting to freelance, I guess it's okay to sacrifice a little bit, to hustle. I guess later in life, when you're maybe becoming a senior, you get the time back because you're getting bigger clients, projects, whatever. So go for it, guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you so much for coming to our small show. Thank you for the insights, into the mastering, into the electronic music world. Yeah, it was really great to have you on.
Absolutely.
I really enjoyed the talk as well. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Thanks for taking the time. Bye-bye, everyone. Bye-bye.
See you in 2 weeks. Goodbye.
Bye.